Hello, hello everyone. Very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to Unacademy's YouTube channel. Let's crack UPSC CSE English. So, as you know, we are doing a crash course on ecology and environment. UPSC CSE prelim for the UPSC CSE prelims 2020. So here we are. So we are discussing about a topic called basics of ecology today. Continuation of yesterday's class. We have discussed basics of ecology yesterday, and we are continuing with the same as of today. This is about me. I'm Venkatesh Emani. So I'm teaching in this field for more than 7 years as of now. Then coming to this platform. So before we start today's session as a whole, I would like to tell you about few things about this Unacademy platform. Crack UPSC CSE with India's largest learning platform, Unacademy. Then you can download this Unacademy learning app from your Android phone, and you can go through all the courses which are there within this, etc. Remember, you have to download learning app, not the Educator app. Okay, Educator app is for us, learning app is for you people. Yes, right. Then, and you can see the top educators at the Unacademy platform. You have all these people, etc. available for you. People like Dipti Madam, Ate Mishra, Aman Sharma, Sudarshan Gurjar, Munal Patel, Ayushangi, all these things, etc. are here for you to help you, etc. You can enroll their courses, and that will help you in having a better clarity for UPSC civil services. Then you can go through all the special classes which are available, etc. in the special classes available in the Unacademy platform. There are different topics. Attend, you can have special classes on different topics, etc. So that means you will be, excuse me. So you'll be having courses. You'll be having special classes. You'll be having doubt sessions. You'll be having quizzes. All these things, etc. What are the advantages, etc. We have a flexible schedule because you can enroll in courses and make your own daily timetable to keep track of your learning. For example, if I'm taking a class now at 3 p.m. every day, you can plan your schedule accordingly. Where at every day 3 p.m. etc. You'll be discussing, you'll be studying my class, you'll be listening to my class, and later on you will be studying. Then you have a language of your choice. Educators teach in English, Hindi, and different languages, etc. Then you can get unlimited practice, etc. You can retake quizzes, watch recorded sessions as many times as you need to know. You can also download videos to watch later, even offline. So this is about this platform as a whole. Then it feels like you are right in the classroom always. You can chat with the educator. These are the advantages of this room. You can chat with me, you can participate in discussions, you can have interactive polls, you can learn anytime, anywhere. So as you know, the Unacademy platform, it's the largest digital channel. So because of this, etc., what is the advantages you have is you can study at your own time, and it is easily available even for the remote sections of the population. Yes. So even for the remote students, you have qualitative lessons available at their disposal. Coming to the most important topic, etc. This is the subscription plan, etc. The most important thing, more than the topic, what I'm trying to tell is the most important thing which you need to remember is you need to remember that this preparation as a whole takes around 15 to 20 months, minimum of around 20 to 50, around 20 months. So this is what I wanted to say. While you are preparing for this exam, for example, if you are preparing, say for example, this year, you are preparing for, to say for example, 2021, you should be preparing by now. From now you have to start for next year, so that there is enough amount of time with you. You can prepare, you can understand the syllabus, you can understand the depth of it, and you can for these things, etc. You are here to take around you. I suggest you to go for either 12 months and 24 months, so that you can have long term, what you say, you can have a long term subscription of Unacademy, and that will help you in guiding forever, for continuously for the next 1-2 years. So this is what I could say. While applying it, etc., please make it sure that while you are subscribing, if you use this code VE10, you will get an additional 10% discount. So this 40,000 will become 36, and 48 will become 43,200. So this is about the subscription platform. That's it. Then we'll start with the class today. So today, as I am telling you, we will be discussing about the basics of ecology and ecosystems, etc. So yesterday we have discussed about what is the difference between ecology and ecosystem, ecology and ecosystems, the differences, the way they, what are the kind of components are there in his ecosystem, etc. Some previous year questions out of those topics, etc. we have discussed, and then continuation. Today we'll be discussing about the continuation things like types of ecosystems, food chains, food webs. We can also discuss and ecological pyramids. Those things we'll be discussing as of today. So this is about types of ecosystems. So what is this topic? Today we're discussing types of ecosystem here. So here ecosystem, as I told you, ecosystem is a community of living beings which are interacting with the environment. Then this ecosystem can be of different types. It can be natural, it can be even artificial, that is man-made. For example, agriculture land, cropland, aquarium. It is also one man-made ecosystem. How it is an ecosystem? See, agriculture land. Continuously every year you are practicing agriculture in a certain area. The kind of way you are interacting with the land, etc. You are applying fertilizers, you are applying pesticides, all these things, etc. And this is because there is an interlinkage of all the animals and plants accordingly, etc. That's why man-made ecosystems, cropland is one ecosystem because you are interacting with the environment in one way. Similarly, aquarium is one ecosystem, etc., which you have prepared a life for the living beings and in your hall or else, right? Then natural ecosystems, traditionally majority are natural ecosystem, almost all are natural, very few are man-made. So all are natural ecosystem. Within natural you can divide it into terrestrial, you can divide into aquatic, that is land and water. So within land, once again you can divide as many varieties as possible: forest, mountain, desert, grassland, etc. as many things. Once again here, forest is one ecosystem, desert is one ecosystem, grassland is ecosystem, etc. Then within that, etc., forest you can have one more subpart. Forest can be divided into tropical forest, temperate forest, deciduous forest, as many varieties here. Similarly, a desert, I can say a hot desert. For example, Gobi, hot desert, Sahara desert, Great Saharan desert is a hot desert. I can also talk about a cold desert like a Gobi desert, right? East Asia, around China, Manchurian lands, Mongolia, etc. You can talk about Gobi desert. Then grasslands, you can talk about tropical grasslands, which are savannas, and temperate grasslands, which are steppes. So once again, the land ecosystem I can divide as many as possible. So this is the types of ecosystem we have. Similarly, in aquatic ecosystems, you have other types. You have things like freshwater and marine water. In freshwater, once again, larger water bodies, oceans, and smaller things, seas, okay, gulfs. Similarly, a freshwater ecosystem, river, lake, pond, pool, everything, etc., has one kind of uniqueness. So this is about the types of ecosystems, etc., which you are discussing. The next we'll be talking about ecotone. So some of the topics we'll be discussing today. One of the topic we're discussing is ecotone. So what is ecotone? Just a minute. So here you can observe this is a land ecosystem and this is water ecosystem. So there is ecosystem of water over here. You can see the fishes here, the birds and all these things, etc. Aquatic ecosystem, and here you can see the land ecosystem, and in between this is the transition zone between water and land. This transition zone ecosystem we can call it as a ecotone. So what happens usually in an ecotone, etc. So what is an ecotone? First of all, it is a zone or junction between two or more diverse ecosystems. What is that? Zone or junction between two diverse ecosystems like land and water. So as you can see in this Venn diagram, this is one ecosystem, this is another ecosystem. The transition or the transition zone is called a ecotone. What happened? What do we find here? Adjacent ecosystem conditions can be seen here. Then example, mangroves and grassland. Mangroves are a mangroves are adjacent between land ecosystem and water ecosystem. So mangroves can be one example of an ecosystem. Grasslands can be one example of a ecosystem. Grasslands. How does a grassland is an ecosystem? You can find anywhere in the world. As we discuss biomes, you will understand this. Grassland is nothing but a transition zone between two diverse ecosystems of a desert and a tropical equatorial forest. So we can call that as a ecosystem. So usually grasses we can call. So anyhow, mangroves is the best example, etc. The most important thing about ECOTONE is the number of species and the population density will be greater than the surrounding areas here. So this is, see, this is the ECOTONE. The surrounding areas are only A and only B. So what happens is the number of species will be more high. Why? It is because in this transition zone the conditions of both ecosystems can be seen. Because of that, whatever the habitats of these species will be found here, whatever the habitat of this species will also be found here, and certain species will be surviving only here. So that's why there are 3 species in ecosystem A, 3 species in ecosystem B, whereas in an ecotone you almost have 3 plus 3 plus another 3 of the uniqueness which you find in this part. So like that you will be having 9. That's why the number of species in the population density is very high. This effect we call it as edge effect. As they are located at the edges of their ecosystem, we call them as edge effect, because surrounding ecosystems effect also, transition effect also will be there on this. Hence it is called edge effect. So what is ecotone? Zone between two diverse ecosystems. What is edge effect? Having more species in the ecotone areas. So that's what I'm doing. Once again, birds density is greater in a mixed habitat. So this is about ecotone. They might ask you a straight definition about what is ecotone and what are the, consider the following statements about ecotone. They might ask you as here population density might be low, number of species might be low, something like that. So I think you are, I hope you are having better clarity now. Then moving on to the next topic, ecocline. So it is also very similar to an ecotone, but it has variations. It is subtopic. Ecocline is nothing but one subset of ecotone. So what is the variation which you are having is ecocline is a variation of physiochemical environment. Okay, don't mind the spelling mistake here. Physiochemical environment depend on one or two physiochemical factors of life, say temperature, and thus presence or absence of certain species. So ecocline is a variation of physiochemical environment or one or two physical chemical factors, say temperature, and thus presence or absence of certain species. What does I'm saying is ecocline is also a transition. It also occurs across an environmental gradient, gradual change in abiotic factors such as altitude, temperature, salinity, depth. What I'm trying to say is, for example, just a minute. So imagine that this is an entire area, a mountainous area. So now what is happening is, as you move from this side toward this side, altitude is changing. So ecocline occurs across an environmental gradient where there is a gradual change in factors like altitude, temperature, salinity, depth, etc. So as you move from here to here, what happens? There is a change. This change, which is gradual in nature, is what is called ecocline. Because of this change, what happens? Because of this ecocline changes in the environmental gradient, which is gradual in nature, the kind of interactions of biotic and abiotic which will be there in these areas will be very varying. So this is what I would like to tell you. Right? So this is what you could. Similarly, temperature changes. As you move across different altitude, there is also a temperature change. Similarly, in a old water body, salinity. There will be variations of salinity, there will be variations of depth. All these things, variations of the physical and the chemical environment which are happening, etc., across across an area, we call that as point as ecocline. I hope you have better understood it, etc. Please remember, ecotone is a transition between two ecosystems, whereas ecocline is a transition of one kind of a gradient like temperature, altitude in a certain area. That is what you can call it as ecocline. Then next topic, ecological niche. So next topic, ecological niche, etc. So what is the niche, etc.? It is nothing but unique functional role or place of a species in an ecosystem. Every species has one kind of a function. That unique function, whichever you are having, which you are talking about, is called ecological niche. What is that? Every species which is having some kind of a functional role in an ecosystem, we call it as ecological niche. Every species. For example, a deer is supposed to eat the grass, and a tiger is supposed to eat certain, is supposed to, tiger is supposed to have a, tiger has some kind of a function in an ecosystem. What is that? To eat all the herbivorous animals. So ecological niche, it describes all biological, physical and chemical factors that a species needs to survive, stay healthy and reproduce. It describes all biological, physical and chemical factors that a species needs to survive, stay healthy and reproduce. A niche is unique for a species while many species share the habitat. So what is that? A niche is a unique for a species while many species share the habitat. So within a habitat where the animals are surviving, etc., the environment where they live, a niche is unique for a species. Then why it is ecological niche, etc.? Why are you studying? It is because it is important for conservation of species. So habitat niche, food niche, etc., are the varieties of niche, etc. Whatever the which I am trying to tell you is, ecological niche is nothing but unique functional role given to a certain species in an ecosystem. If that function is not carried out by that species, as a whole ecosystem will be collapsing. Right? So, for example, it is why it is important ecological niche. It is important for conservation of species. For example, we are having something called Project Tiger. Now, while you are identifying Project Tiger, etc., what are you going to do? You need to identify which places are suitable for tigers. Similarly, there is talk about relocations of cheetah now. So let's see this statement right now. What is this? Relocation of cheetah in India. So as you know, cheetah as an animal, etc., is extinct in India by around at the time of independence itself. From then we are trying to relocate it, but what the problem is, the Supreme Court allowed the introduction of African cheetah to suitable habitat in India on January 28. Recently it is in news. To suitable habitat in India on January 28. The top court directed that habitat should be chosen carefully after examining if the animal can adapt to Indian conditions. So cheetah, it has certain climate conditions which they need to survive. For example, it can survive only in grasslands. Grasslands is its major area. Why cheetah in grassland, etc.? You see, cheetah is one of the fastest animal. As it is the fastest animal, what it can do? While it is running, if it is running in for example, in a forest area, there will be so many trees. In terms of the kind of running, it cannot balance that. It will be hitting itself to a tree, a bark, something like that, right? Whereas if it is in grassland, there is so much amount of vacant space, it can run as fast as possible, right? So if you are trying to relocate cheetahs in our forest, we need to identify places where there are so much amount of grasslands, where there is enough kind of food available to it, That is things like what is the prey over there, what is the present predator over that area, whether this predator and this predator can coexist, whether etc. cheetahs can get enough food. All those things government has to consider, and then it can relocate. One of the prominent sanctuary which they are trying to relocate is Nauradehi sanctuary in Madhya Pradesh. Nauradehi sanctuary in Madhya Pradesh. So this is what we can remember. They might ask you as a current affairs. Nauradehi sanctuary is in which part of the world? Why it is in news? The context for this is relocation of cheetah. And which areas government is trying to do? Grasslands. Why grasslands? Because cheetah's ecological niche is grasslands. I hope you are understanding, etc. Guys, whoever are listening to this class as of now, if you are having any kind of issues, you can have a chat button over there. You can chat with me. You can you can ask your doubts. I am here to help you, right? So this is what ecological niche. Similarly, another example which I have written here. Example: elephant habitat not in steep slopes. Elephants, they being a mighty animal, etc., they cannot survive in areas where the slope is very steeper because they might fall. So usually they will be located in a gentle slope area where it is not very steep. This is what I am trying to give an ecological niche. Another thing, etc. We can give as many examples. I think you heard a word by name. Tomorrow we'll be discussing that again. Tomorrow we'll be discussing this anyhow. What is that? Is keystone species. Keystone species. Keystone. Keystone species. For example, tiger. Tiger is one keystone species. Why tiger is a keystone species? Why do government has something called a keystone type project tiger? The reason is because tiger has one ecological role to play. Imagine, etc., if the tiger is not there in a certain area, what happens? As we discussed about the food chains and the food habits yesterday, etc., what will happen is tiger as a whole will be eating out the tiger will not be getting the tiger as a whole is not there, then its prey, all the herbivorous animal, they will increase their number. If the herbivorous animal as a whole increases the number, what happens, etc.? Tigers not there, leading to what happens? Increase in herbivorous animal. Increase in herbivorous leads to grass will deteriorate because herbivores will eat the grass, will eat all the plants. Because of that, etc., the whole thing will be slowly turning into a desert. Imagine if there is no grass, what happens? The speed of the wind also will increase. If the speed of the wind also increases, etc., there will be the pollination also will be very much affected because the wind speed, as it increases, all the seeds, everything will be wiped out as quickly as possible. Because of this, that entire ecosystem movement will be there. Ultimately, the final conclusion will be destruction of ecosystem. That's why every ecosystem will be having certain things called keystone species, and this keystone species is the primary importance of that area, because without that the entire food chain will be collapsing. That's what ecological niche is about. It's a very important topic. I hope you have understood it. Tomorrow we'll be giving about, I will discussing about the different species, different concept associated with species like keystone, indicator species, all these things. Tomorrow we'll discuss that. As of now, I think ecological niche, I hope you have understood. Then you can see a previous year question here. Which one of the following terms describes not only the physical space occupied by an organism, but also its functional role in the community of organisms? What is that? Describes physical space of an organism and also its functional role. It is nothing but ecological niche. Answer is B. Ecotone. It is nothing but transition area. Ecological niche, physical space and functional role. Habitat is simply a physical space. So this is what the difference is. They might ask you a question, as I told you, which they are asking about the basic definitions, concepts oriented topics from these terms, etc. Every topic you should be able to know. Then coming to the next topic, energy flow in the ecosystem. Energy flow in the ecosystem. So as you know, as an ecosystem cannot survive without energy flow. See, if you see the, before that, I think if you need the continuation of the chapters, how are we discussing? Initially we said yesterday, ecosystem means biotic plus abiotic plus energy flow. So biotic, etc. We have discussed the kinds of plants and animals, producers, primary producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, etc. Abiotic, we discuss things like temperature, sunlight, and all these things. Then now we are discussing about the how the energy flow happens in a ecosystem, right? So then this energy is the basic force responsible for all the metabolic activities, etc. And how is the energy is produced? Sun is the only source of energy for ecosystems on the Earth's surface, except deep sea hydrothermal ecosystem. So what is deep sea hydrothermal ecosystems, etc.? The deepest vents and the deep oceans, etc. There, sun is not the source of energy, but food is prepared. Yes, it is not photosynthesis, but food is prepared. How is that? Yes, what do you call that word? How, where food is prepared without the use of the sunlight? It is, yes, think chemosynthesis. It is chemosynthesis. So chemosynthesis is preparation of food in the deep sea hydrothermal ecosystem by bacteria, where they don't use the sunlight, but they use the chemical nature of the elements which are available over there. So bacteria prepares for food, this food from the by processing the chemical bonds which are available, chemical atoms which are available either through different things like methane, carbon, all those things which are available at the bottom of the ocean. So that's how they prepare the food in the absence of sunlight. So what is the difference between sunlight, photosynthesis and chemosynthesis? Is this. There sunlight energy, here it is chemical energy. Right. So sun is the, but nevertheless this is a very what do you say, when compared to the extent of photosynthesis, etc., this is very less. Anyhow, we can move forward to the next point. Sun is the only source of energy for ecosystems on the earth. Then energy is the basic force responsible. Energy is the basic force responsible. Then this flow of energy is from producers to the top consumers. That means, etc. If there are primary producers, then primary consumers, then secondary consumers, then you have tertiary consumers, the flow of energy will be in this way. Primary producers to primary. So this is how the energy flow in the ecosystems happens. I mean, I can give you a definition for this. Yes. You can see here, buffalo grass, primary producers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and so primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. So the energy flow happens from primary producers to tertiary consumers, top to bottom. So bottom to top, whatever you call it, etc. This is bottom to top. This is how energy is produced. This is what we will be discussing. Anyhow, we'll discuss that later. What we are discussing. This is what here we are discussing. Energy flow in the ecosystem is from producers to top consumers. Then plants capture energy which is less than 10% of active radiation. The sunlight energy, which is in the form of different wavelength bands, right from gamma rays, X-rays, and all these things. Whatever the sunlight energy is refused, etc., among the active radiation, plants capture less than 10 percentage. It is almost around 5 percentage in some areas. So as enough you can remember as 10 percentage. Plants capture energy that much amount of the actual radiation. From this 10 percentage of energy from green plants, energy is transformed from one trophic level to another trophic level via food chains and food webs. What is a trophic level, etc., where the energy is produced from one. For example, primary producer, that is one trophic level. Primary consumers, that is one trophic level. Then food chains and food webs. So as we are discussing this energy flow, it happens via food chains and food webs. A sequence of organisms that feed on one another form a food chain. Whereas if it is there is complex interconnected network of several food chains is food web. So food chains and food webs, what is the difference? Food chain is a very simple one where the linkages is simply like A to B, B to C, C to D. Whereas the complex interconnected network of several food chains is food web, where we call it as A. Now here it might be from B to not just C but also might be E. From E once again it might be C, or else from C it can be to F, and once again then finally to D. So that means complex interconnected networks of food chains is food webs. That means see, every species might not be located at one trophic level, it will be interchanging. As it interchanges, etc., new food chain is created. Continuity of food chain, it will be, see, in nature, majority of the times we only find a food web, which is always complex. Very rarely you find a food chain in the nature. Now, there are two varieties of food chain. Grazing food chain and detritus food chain, etc. So what happens in a grazing food chain? In a grazing food chain, the first level starts with plants as producers and ends with carnivores as consumers at the last level, with the herbivorous being at the intermediate level. There is a loss of energy at each level, which may be through respiration, excretion, or decomposition. These levels involved in a food chain range from 3 to 5 and energy is lost at each level. What I am saying, in a grazing food chain, the first level starts with plants as producers, ends with carnivores as consumers at the last level, with the herbivores being in the transition zone. This is the loss of energy at each level, which may be happening through respiration, excretion, or decomposition. The levels involved in a food chain range from 3 to 5 or energy, and energy is lost at each level. 3 to 5, that means primary producer, secondary consumer, primary PP, primary producer, then PC, primary consumer, then secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. These are what we are talking about, levels. Or it might be even quaternary. For example, if there is an eagle which you are adding, it might be a quaternary. A hawks which you had, etc., it might be levels which are varying. This is a grazing food chain. You can see here flower, which has producer, primary producer, caterpillar, it got the food. From the caterpillar, energy is transferred to a frog, frog to a snake, snake to a owl. So what an owl, right? So how many have things now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is what trophic level. The levels involved in a food chain range from 3 to 5. Then the next one, detritus food chain. Detritus food chain, etc. This type of food chain goes from dead organic matter into microorganisms and then to organisms feeding on detritus and their predators. So the food chain which feeds from dead organic matter is called detritus food chain. So these ecosystems are not dependent totally on solar energy. They are less dependent on it, although they are indirectly dependent. How? The dead organic matter of grazing food chain forms the energy base. The waste material of the grazing food chain, the dead organic matter of the grazing food chain forms this energy base for detritus food chains. I hope you have understood. Yes, people who are watching, etc., if you are having any doubts, you can always Ping me up. I'm available live chat even during the class, etc. Any doubts, etc. Please don't hesitate. Don't just blindly listen to the topics. Listen with a good heart. Listen with your accuracy with the brain. Use your brain, etc. Listen. Don't just be physically present. Your mind also should be present. As you listen, etc. These topics you need not prepare again, right? Then these depend chiefly on influx of organic matter produced in another systems. What happens? This detritus food chain, what you are saying, these depend chiefly on influx of organic matter produced in another system. Then another example which I can provide you is, for example, such type of food chain operates in the decomposition accumulated litter in a temperate forest. So what is that? This food chain operates in decomposing accumulated litter in a temperate forest. So this type of food. So what is detritus food chain? Food chain which gets its food from decomposed dead organic matter is called detritus food chains. Grazing food chain is a normal food chain. Yes. Then one of the most important topic, next one, ecological pyramids. Just a minute. Yes. Yes, next topic, ecological pyramids. So what is an ecological pyramid? What is an ecological pyramids? It is a pyramid shaped representation of total number of species, total biomass, and energy availability with successive higher trophic levels in the food chain. In a natural ecosystem is called ecological. See, you know pyramid shape, right? So this is a pyramid. This pyramid shape representation of total number of species available in a certain area, for example, primary producers, primary consumers, etc., with successive higher trophic level. This is the trophic level in the food chain in a natural ecosystem is called ecological pyramid. See, we can give a definition here. Once again, you see the definition: a pyramid shape representation of total number of species, total biomass, and an energy. Three, number of species, biomass, energy, with availability with successive higher trophic levels in a food chain in a natural ecosystem. See, this is a pyramid. You can see the producers, the herbivorous, the carnivorous, the top carnivores. The kind of pyramid representation of all the species of a certain area which are available based on a trophic level. Once you are arranging them, it always gets in the shape of a pyramid. This pyramid shape representation of the animals, which we call it as ecological pyramids. Here what happens? The food and energy relation between organisms is there at different levels. The food or energy relationship between organisms is there at different trophic levels. Then steps of trophic level is expressed in a diagrammatic way. That's what you have seen right now. Then food producer forms the base and the carnivorous as the tip, as you have seen in this ecological pyramid. Then one of the things which you have discussed here, a given species may occupy more than one trophic level in the same ecosystem at the same time. For example, a sparrow is primarily a consumer while it eats seeds, fruits, peas, and secondary consumer when it eats insects and worms. So that means, as you discuss a food chain, the sparrow can be a part of a food chain and it can also be part of a food web, because when it is eating only the seeds, fruits, etc., it is a primary consumer, while it eats insects and worms because it becomes a secondary consumer, because insects and worms are already feeding on the primary plants. So in that way, we can say that a species may be occupy one trophic level. Then there are some limitations with this trophic level, etc., which you need to understand. Trophic level, it represents a functional level, not a species as such. That means what is happening in primary producers, what is happening in primary consumers, in secondary consumers, it will represents that functional level only. It will not discuss the species as such, because that species might not be part of only that area alone, though that might be part of that trophic level, right? Similarly, it assumes a simple food chain trophic level, something that almost never exists in nature. It does not accommodate a food web. Yes, that's what I'm discussing. It does not accommodate a food web. Then, moreover, saprophytes, that is plants, fungus, microorganism that lives on decaying matter, are not given any place in ecological pyramids, even though they play in a vital role in an ecosystem. So that's what. Another point which you know, the saprophytes, that is the dead organic matter, plants, fungus, and microorganisms that lives on decaying matter, they are not given in any place in the ecological pyramids, though they have play a vital role in the ecosystem. So that is the limitation of ecological pyramid. Then what are the varieties of pyramids you have? The three varieties of ecological pyramids you have is pyramid of numbers, pyramid of biomass, pyramid of energy. So there are three varieties of ecological pyramid. That is what the pyramid based representation of species in a trophic level. What is ecological pyramid? It is nothing but representation of species of each trophic level. As this representation of species of a trophic level in an ecosystem is coming in the shape of a pyramid, it is called as an ecological pyramid. So it is nothing, pyramids are nothing but representation of the species in a ecosystem. That's it, right? So there are three varieties. Number pyramid. So what does number pyramid suggest? It is the pyramid formed by number of species from one trophic level to higher trophic level. So they only count the number of species in a number pyramid. In a biomass pyramid, the second variety pyramid, what you are doing, instead of concluding the pyramid number, instead of identifying the number of species in a certain trophic level, we are identifying the what is the weight now. Total weight of the organic matter of each trophic level. Then there is another kind of a pyramid, that is energy pyramid. Here what are you doing? Energy pyramid is the pyramid representing the total amount of energy present at each trophic level of food chain in a natural ecosystem. That's what. So number pyramid is called number ecological pyramid, and biomass pyramid is called biomass pyramid. Number pyramid calculates the number of species in each trophic level. Biomass calculates the total weight of the organic matter. Energy pyramid calculates the total weight or total energy of the matter present in the trophic level. Then in most ecosystems, then there are two more points about these things. In most ecosystems, all the pyramids, that is of the number or energy or biomass, are upright. So entire ecosystem will be always upright, not inverted. It will be not inverted. So I hope just what is inverted? Just a minute. So almost all the pyramids are upright. Inverted, the opposite, right? So this is what. In most ecosystems, all the pyramids of the number of energy and biomass are upright. That is, producers are more in number, biomass than the herbivorous, and herbivores are more in number and biomass than the carnivorous. Also, energy at lower trophic level is always more than at a higher level. That means energy reduces as you move to a higher trophic level. There are exceptions to this generalization. For example, the number of insects feeding on a big tree. So I'll give you the examples. So first of all, pyramid of numbers. Usually in pyramid of numbers, what happens etc. is the pyramid is upright. So as you see, we have the pyramid here as upright, right? So what happens? This is PP, primary producer. This is the base level where food is prepared. So grasses in a cropland or a phytoplanktons in an aquatic ecosystem. Then herbivorous etc. insects or zooplankton in a aquatic ecosystem. Then carnivorous, small fishes, lizards. Then large fishes. So what happens? The number The extent of grasses are huge and the insects reduces, the number of insects which are feeding upon grasses will be lesser, then the number of lizards which are feeding on the insects is even lesser, then the number of hawks or the large fishes in aquatic ecosystem will be even lesser which are feeding on the small fishes or lizards. So as you move up the trophic level from producer to the top end carnivorous etc., the number of species will be reduced. That is pyramid of numbers. This is what you call an upright pyramid. But you can also have a inverted pyramid where once again see the this is primary producer, this is primary consumer, this is secondary consumer, and this is tertiary consumer. The process is from here only, whereas the number, how many number of species are there at each trophic level, that is varying. For example, I told you ecosystem, it is nothing but interactions of the living beings with their surroundings. So the tree, a single tree which is producing its food, then from it some birds are there, and from it some parasites are surviving on it, and from the parasite they are surviving another hyperparasites. So one single tree will have so many birds surviving on it. From the birds you can have thousands of parasites, from the parasites you can have another thousands of hyperparasites. So in this way what happened here, the number has become increased. So the pyramid of a number in a parasitic food chain is always inverted. So inverted, that means what, the number keeps on increasing as the levels, trophic levels increase. That's why instead of a traditional pyramid upright, which is upright, we have a inverted pyramid. Similarly, pyramid of biomass. What is biomass? Pyramid of biomass is which you are calculating the biomass now. We are calculating the total weight of the organic matter. So in a terrestrial ecosystem, what happens? Once again, the biomass of the grasses is higher. From there, as you move towards insects, etc., that will be lesser kind of biomass. Insects has less. From insects to lizards, even less. From lizards to hawks, even more less. So the biomass in a terrestrial ecosystem, it is usually upright, where it keeps on reducing. Whereas the same biomass for an aquatic ecosystem, we might reduce. So what happens? These are phytoplanktons. They prepare food. From the phytoplanktons, zooplanktons, they are huge in number. From zooplanktons, etc., next level even more huge in number, and from their level even more huge in number. Carnivorous fishes. What happens? Phytoplanktons, their weight of the organic matter is very, very less. Thousands of producers of phytoplanktons, so many number, but their weight is very, very less. Each species weight is very less. Then from phytoplankton to zooplankton to small fishes, their weight is even more lesser, whereas the top end fishes, etc., their weight is very, very high. So even pyramid of biomass can be both inverted, can be both upright, whereas pyramid of energy can never be inverted. It can always only be upright. Pyramid of energy, etc., it can only be in this fashion. It cannot be part of in this fashion. Why? Because as you move, energy will only decrease but not increase. Please remember, energy will only decrease but not increase. So this is 10%, 100% of the energy whichever is produced, the loss of thermodynamics will apply. As loss of thermodynamics will apply, what happens? As you move from this trophic level to this trophic level, there will be only transfer of 10% of the energy of which is produced here. From here, whatever this animal is eating, this, that is the dog which is using the coyote, etc., there is only around 10% of the energy transfer. Remaining thing will be wastage. Then whatever the vulture is eating this animal, etc., once again there is only 10% weightage. 0.1% will be eaten of this animal by vulture. So in that way, what happens? The kind of energy transfer which is happening will be reducing by around 90%. Almost there is only a transfer of 10%. This is called this 10% rule of ecosystem. As you move across the food trophic levels from producers, primary producers to consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, there will be only just 10 percentage energy which will be moved up. So that is about pyramid of energy. So this is what you have discussed here. Pyramid of biomass shows a sharp decrease in biomass at higher trophic levels. The pyramid of biomass in a sea is generally inverted because the biomass of fishes far exceeds that of phytoplankton. See, the pyramid of biomass in sea is generally inverted because fishes biomass far exceeds that of phytoplankton. That's what you have seen in this thing. So here, whatever the primary producers which are there, these primary producers are phytoplanktons. This phytoplanktons biomass is far lesser than the top carnivore of big fishes. That's what you have written here. Then pyramid of energy is always upright, can never be inverted, because when energy flows from a trophic level to the next trophic level, some energy is always lost as heat at each step. So this is laws of thermodynamics. So from this concept of ecological pyramid, what are the four basic things which you need to remember is, first point which you need to remember is, just a minute, definition you have understood, but the first thing, pyramid of number. So this point, the number pyramid and the biomass pyramid, the pyramid of number and the biomass, these two will be inverted and also will be upright, whereas pyramid of energy will always be upright. It can never, remember, it can never be inverted. So pyramid of energy, it can never be inverted. This is the key point which you need to remember. Then these limitations etc., that trophic level represents only a functional level, not a species. It ignores saprophytes etc., and it assumes a simple food chain, not a food web, does not accommodate food web. It will be the other points. That's it. These are the four keywords of ecological pyramids. I hope you have understood well all these topics. I don't know how many of you are following well, etc. I would like to thank everyone, whoever is watching it, etc. Please give your names in the chat. I would like to see how many are watching. Please give yourself hello, everyone. Yes, good. Hello, Anushman. You have watched one thing. Then hello, Ram Kumar. I hope you are doing well. I hope you are understanding all these topics very well. We'll move forward later on, etc. Tomorrow onwards, tomorrow we'll be continuing the basics of biology. There are further more chapters, and from the next week, we'll be continuing about different other topics like biomes. Hope you are doing very well. Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye bye. See you tomorrow.